The sound that was supposed to define the happiest day of my life wasn't the first chord of the wedding march or the joyful cheers of our guests. It was the deafening silence of my parents' empty chairs. Not a call, not a text, not a single flower to explain why they couldn't be there to watch their only daughter get married. I thought that was the final, brutal lesson in where I stood. But life has a way of underlining things in permanent ink. Last month, I posted a photo of my new car, a $120,000 Tesla Model S, on Facebook. For 3 days, my phone was quiet. Then, it rang. It was my mother. Her voice was tight, strained. "Ilara," she said, not a hello or how are you. "Your father and I saw your purchase. We need to have a family discussion tomorrow." My blood went cold. They had no time for my wedding, but a luxury car? That demanded an immediate summit. I knew with a chilling certainty what was coming. The questions, the guilt, the outstretched hand. But I had a plan, something they'd never see coming. Stick around to see how I turned their greed against them. Have your family ever ignored your big moments? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone. Let's talk about it. My name is Ilara Vance. I'm 32 years old, an architectural photographer from Portland, Oregon. To understand the depth of that silence on my wedding day, you have to understand the quiet symphony of neglect that was my childhood. Our house wasn't a home. It was a museum dedicated to my brother, Julian. Julian, 3 years my senior, was the family prodigy, state-level debater, captain of the swim team, accepted into Stanford. My parents, Arthur and Diana Vance, were curators of his brilliance. Every achievement was framed, every trophy polished and displayed in the living room's central cabinet. I was the quiet afterthought. My accomplishments, the art awards, the straight-A report cards, the photography that teachers said showed real promise, were treated like pleasant but ultimately irrelevant footnotes. I remember being 10 years old, painstakingly building a diorama of the solar system for a science fair. I spent weeks on it, mixing paints to get Jupiter's storm spots just right. The night before, Julian had a debate meet. They all went, of course. I presented my diorama alone the next day. I won first place. When I brought the ribbon home, my mother glanced at it. "That's lovely, dear," she said, already turning back to addressing envelopes for Julian's college application packets. The ribbon ended up in a drawer. Julian's debate trophies got a new shelf. The pattern was relentless. His high school graduation was a catered affair at a country club. Mine, 2 years later, was met with a quick dinner at a chain restaurant where my father spent most of the time on a business call. When I got a full-ride scholarship to study visual arts, my father's only comment was, "Well, at least it won't cost us anything. Julian's law school is a different story." I learned to shrink, to make my needs small and manageable. My dreams were whispers in a house that only echoed with Julian's shouts. The one place I felt seen was behind a camera. My grandfather, my mother's father, gave me an old film camera when I was 14. He saw the world through an artist's eyes, and he told me I did too. We'd spend weekends driving along the Oregon coast, him teaching me about composition, light, and the patience of waiting for the perfect shot. He was my sanctuary. When he passed away during my sophomore year in college, he left me $15,000. It was a fortune, a seed. My parents suggested I use it to help with living expenses so I can in turn help Julian with his. Instead, I bought my first professional grade camera and a powerful computer. It was an act of rebellion that felt like a promise to myself and to him. After college, I hustled. I took any photography job I could find, weddings where I was treated like hired help, real estate photos for bland condos, corporate headshots. I lived in a tiny studio apartment that smelled of developer chemicals and takeout.
But every dollar I saved went back into my business. I built a website, a portfolio. I started specializing in architectural photography, capturing the soul of buildings in a way that resonated with high-end firms. My client list grew. My name started to mean something in Portland's design circles. All the while, Julian's star continued to rise, at least in my parents' narrative. He'd married Sophia, a woman whose family was old Portland money, and they had 2 children, Liam and Isabel. Every family gathering was a showcase of their perfect life. Julian's new car, Sophia's designer handbags, the kids' private school tuition. These were the topics that dominated dinner conversations. I was the odd one out, the bohemian with her little camera business. My parents would ask polite, disinterested questions about my work before swiftly pivoting to Julian's latest high-profile case or the family's vacation to Aspen. Then I met Leo. He was a landscape architect, a man with dirt under his nails and a calm, steady soul. We met on a shoot for a design magazine. He designed the gardens for a modern home I was photographing. He didn't see me as Julian Vance's little sister or my parents' quiet daughter. He saw Elara, the photographer, the artist, the woman. With Leo, I didn't have to shrink. He celebrated my ambition. He was the first person to look at my financial spreadsheets and cheer me on, instead of dismissing it as a hobby. When he proposed on a misty cliffside overlooking the Pacific, I said yes without a single doubt. Planning the wedding was a joy. We chose a small, intimate venue in the wine country surrounded by oak trees. We wanted it to be about us, about the community we had built together. I sent the invitation to my parents with a handwritten note. I called my mother. "It's on the 18th, I said, my voice hopeful. "I really want you there." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, Elara, the 18th? That's Liam's championship soccer tournament. You know how Julian and Sophia are about supporting the children's activities. We simply can't miss it." The blow was familiar, as almost comforting in its predictability. "It's my wedding, Mom." "We'll send a lovely gift," she said, her tone already drifting away. "I have to go. Sophia's calling about the team jerseys." The day of the wedding arrived. I wore a simple, elegant silk gown. Leo's eyes filled with tears when he saw me. His family embraced me like I'd always been theirs. The ceremony was perfect, filled with genuine love. But as I stood at the altar, I couldn't help but let my eyes flicker to the 2 empty chairs reserved for my parents. They remained empty. No gift arrived, no call. It was as if the day had never happened for them. The silence after the wedding was absolute. Months passed without a word. Leo and I built our life. My business, which I had nurtured for a decade, exploded. A series of my architectural photos went viral in the design world, leading to contracts with international magazines and luxury hotel chains. The little camera business became a highly profitable enterprise. To celebrate a particularly large contract, and as a practical investment for all the driving I did between shoots, I bought the Tesla. It was a symbol of everything I had built entirely on my own. I posted the picture almost as an afterthought, a moment of private pride. I didn't expect a reaction from my family. I'd accepted their absence. Then, the call came.
The family discussion was held at my parents' house, a place that still felt like a museum I wasn't allowed to touch. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. My father started, his voice a low rumble. "That's quite a car, Elara." My mother cut to the chase. "We saw the price online. We need to talk about your brother." Julian, it turned out, had made some disastrous investments. He was on the verge of losing everything. His house, his status, everything. Sophia's family had cut them off. "Liam and Isabel's future is at stake," my mother pleaded, her eyes desperate. "You have this money now. Family helps family."
I looked at them. My father, stern and expectant, my mother wringing her hands with a performance of anxiety, and Julian, who couldn't even meet my gaze. The years of silence, the missed wedding, the accumulated dismissals crystallized into a cold, sharp point. I already helped family, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. I helped myself. I reached into my bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a printout of a bank transfer confirmation. Granddad's $15,000, the money you told me to give to Julian, I used it to buy my first camera. That camera built my business. That business bought that car. I let that hang in the air for a moment. But you're right. Family should help family. I then pulled out another document. It was a press release already sent to local media. I've established the Thomas Reed Foundation, named for my grandfather. Its mission is to fund art and photography programs for underprivileged youth in Portland. I've endowed it with $1 million. I'm helping the children who actually need it, who have talent but no support system. Unlike Julian, they don't have a family willing to sacrifice one child for the other. The silence in the room was more profound than I had ever heard. My mother stared at the paper, her face ashen. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack. You gave it away? Julian finally sputtered, his face purple with rage. $1 million to strangers? That could have saved me. I stood up, feeling taller than I ever had in that house. You never asked to be saved by me at my wedding, Julian. You don't get to ask now for my money. My family, Leo, his parents, the memory of my grandfather, they taught me that love isn't conditional. It shows up. It always shows up. You didn't. So this money, it's going to people who will actually appreciate the investment. I walked out of that house for the last time. I didn't slam the door. I closed it softly, a final, quiet period at the end of a very long sentence. The fallout was swift. I heard through the grapevine that Julian and Sophia had to sell their mansion and move into a modest townhouse. My parents, who had leveraged their own retirement to bail him out before, were facing a much leaner future than they'd planned. But my life, the one I built with my own 2 hands and a stubborn heart, is full. Leo and I are expecting our first child. The foundation is already changing lives, giving young artists the tools and confidence I had to fight for. The Tesla is just a car, but it's a reminder that I steered myself here, away from their neglect and toward my own son. They ignored my wedding because they didn't value the union. They noticed my car because they valued the price tag. In the end, their priorities were the greatest gift they ever gave me. They forced me to learn my own worth, and that is something no one can ever repossess. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt overlooked or had your worth reduced to a dollar sign by those who should have loved you most, I want you to do 3 things for me. First, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. It's so powerful to see this community of survivors from all over the world. Second, if this story gave you a spark of strength, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And finally, subscribe to the channel. This isn't the end of my story. It's the beginning of a conversation about building a life on your own terms. I'm Ilara Vance. Remember, your value is not defined by their blindness.